wrestler. The agility of a gymnast. The moves of a grandmaster. The lunges of a fencer. The footwork of a boxer. The stamina of a marathoner. The kicks of a martial artist. The leaps of a high jumper. The tackles of a rugby player. Only one breed of elite sportsmen combines the qualities of all. This is Kabaddi. Our sport, our passion. With a heritage and a history that is our own. A sport in a league of its own, now with a league of its own. Introducing Pro Kabaddi. The ultimate sport is here.
Kabaddi, no kabaddi, 8 kabaddi, 7 kabaddi, 6 kabaddi, 5 kabaddi, 4 kabaddi, 3 kabaddi, 2 kabaddi, 8 kabaddi. 10 kabaddi, no kabaddi, 8 kabaddi, 7 kabaddi, 6 kabaddi, 5 kabaddi, 4 kabaddi, 3 kabaddi, 2 kabaddi, 8 kabaddi.
कबड्डी 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 कबड्डी
Kabaddi, 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 kabaddi.
जीतते हैं वही जो हार नहीं मानते. स्टार स्पोर्ट्स प्रो कबड्डी.
Good evening, my name is Shishir Lal and I have with me today Charu Sharma, whom most of you know as a sports personality of many facets, a commentator, a very affable IPL auctioneer. But Charu is a lot more than what most of you know him as. Most of us have the ability to create an impact amongst the circle that we exist in, of friends and relatives. But Charu has gone one step ahead and created a social impact which has enabled hundreds of Kabaddi players and a whole ecosystem to benefit both monetarily, professionally, and through self-esteem. And this was possible because he had a dream. And today evening we will try and get as much out of him as we can to share his dream and how he made it happen. I'd also like to thank Ravi, I don't see him here, and Sandhya for helping out in arranging this session. I met Ravi some months ago and cribbed that we only see arts, literature, music kind of stuff at BIC, but sports is also an integral part of the social fabric. And so we're meeting here today. I also noticed that on 8th of August, there's another sports session with Amrit Mathur introducing his book. So thank you very much. Some housekeeping rules. You are most welcome to ask questions in the middle. You don't have to just sit staring at Charu. You can ask questions, but please ask questions relevant to the topic that he is talking about. And if you have a question other than that, please wait for him to progress to that particular topic. And if it is still not covered, we have 15 minutes in the end for people to ask as many questions as they want. So let's get going. Charu. So 2008, IPL was launched and became an instant success. At what stage of IPL success did you get the dream of Kabaddi can make it on the same lines as IPL, as a sporting league?
Okay, will you allow me a second or two to just say hello to everybody? Housekeeping, so on and so forth. Shishir, thank you very much. An old friend from college. Can we hear it from him, please? Thank you. Much more about him than me today, but that's okay. Also, this whole Pro Kabaddi League business, and of course, we've got a macro topic about the making of sporting leagues. If we lock the doors, we could be here for the next 5 days. So these are all very long stories. And we can either order some dinner for tonight or whatever else, just lock the doors. Because now we've got you guys. So we're here for very long. And my biggest challenge today, well, a few challenges. One, of course, I'm not used to speaking to, so many people. Just kidding. It's normally millions. It's nice to be stupid at times. And also, the big challenge is to keep it really brief. So I may fail on occasion, but please, as was famously said, somebody stop me. So, somebody or the other, please butt in, say something, and let's really have a nice warm conversation here between all of us rather than just me and the story, because it's and why I haven't written a book or 5? Because I'm lazy. Maybe someday it's all in here, and I'm forgetting most of it now, so maybe I'll just pen it down privately. And also, well, Moni, our friend who's coming on the 8th, of course, has written 2 or 3 books, and some people do, and some people don't, and I haven't. Despite the fact that there were many, if I can call them offers or whatever else. Also because I got stuck on a couple of situations where the point was to write a book with everything all in. And 98% of the making of the Pro Kabaddi League, or prior to the making of the Pro Kabaddi League, was all just rejection and negative stuff. So if I, do what a certain, say, media group does by saying, a certain gentleman in a certain city, who, of a certain height, and all this, no naming stuff. It would just, to my mind, be really boring. I mean, who's he talking about? What's up? But on the flip side, start naming people, and, we're one of the thinnest skinned countries in the world. So I don't want to be faced with all sorts of other stupid legal situations or whatever else. I don't know, essentially speaking the truth. So I also asked my co-founder, Anand, I said, listen, there's heavy pressure to do this book. What do I do? How do I solve this conundrum about not naming people? If I name people, it's all like, so-and-so threw me out. And so-and-so threw me out, and so-and-so didn't want to see me. And my very good friend Shishir, whom I went and, checked out well before the league, I said, Shishir, this is what I'm planning to do. He threw me out. So, which is a part of the story. You say yes or no?
I remember.
Yeah. He said, what? And after that, he's saying, Charu, no, I'm not home, because he's going to come and dump all this Kabaddi stuff on me. But I'm just kidding. He actually said, are you mad or not going to work? Just like everybody else. So that book is just pending. However, the success of the IPL was more a dampener, really, than a motivator. It wasn't the first league in the world. I mean, there are millions of leagues all over the place, hundreds and thousands. So, people in our part of the world, I love using that term because I don't want to say only India, but people in India say, oh my God, oh Modi, oh my IPL, oh wow. But even before that, there was the ICL, which was also the same league. And before that, there were so many other leagues in football and everything else. So let's not, sit here and kind of say, oh, IPL, first league in India, first. No, it wasn't first anything. But what it did do is skew or lean the ship further. If before the IPL, and I don't know about the video though, because I may say a few things that, may not be, yeah, Ravi, I don't know how this works, but yeah? You also got an erase button and everything else, right? So yeah, okay. If before the IPL, cricket brought in, attracted, pulled in, forced in, maybe 92% of the money spent on sport in India, after the IPL it became 97. Yeah. So everybody would just fight for a crumb and no more in the world of sport in India. So the success of the IPL was, in fact, quite the contrary. It just scared everybody saying, oh my God, the the tree has grown bigger, and under its shadow, nobody will grow. So it wasn't a motivator, but it was certainly an indication that maybe people are ready to accept in India the concept of becoming a franchisee, which again was the most dangerous thing, because the IPL had a lot of money coming in, so people initially didn't really do well financially, as in, because I just don't know how far to rewind, because everything is connected, everything's connected. And the concept of a sporting league, if they require franchises, then all that's connected. And who should ideally, what's the ideal situation for somebody to be owning a league, a team in a sports league? Is my self-styled PhD. So that's most important to understand before we go on, because everybody keeps saying, oh, you make money? Oh, you make money? Are you making money? Did they make? It's not about the money. It's about, well, my favorite example, and I'm sorry, everything's such a long answer, Shishir, you have to forgive me.
No, please continue.
My favorite example, which some of you may have heard, is that it's basically for very wealthy individuals. Of course, it depends on the level of the league. I mean, if you want to own a football league, in which of course most of the youngsters here would identify immediately with, in the EPL, which, luckily now, anyway, let's not go there. What would you need? You need a few billion. Now, very, very rich individuals afford a few billion, but you want to be a franchisee in a very small league in a very small country, you obviously don't need a billion. You need you need to be wealthy anyway. So, very wealthy individuals, usually not companies, but individuals, are the ones who have the privilege of saying, I have so much money, I don't know how much I have. So one of the many things I can do with my money, for instance, in the West particularly, not so much in India, though we have a big coastline, the sign of a billionaire, or one of the happy things that billionaires do, and this is an interactive thing, so you may have heard my example, so you may get it right away. If you don't, we'll have a little quiz thing. What do billionaires really get attracted to? What, not whom? Internationally, say in the West. A big sign, oh, look at this. It must surely be owned by a billionaire. I'm asking. Sports teams, obviously, but, other signs.
Space exploration.
Yeah, that's trillionaire. But let's go billionaire. What do billionaires normally say? Oh, I must have one of that. Stand up and take a bow. You heard my examples also. Okay, well done. A yacht, a nice yacht parked in the Mediterranean in my south of France home, which is my 18th home. So what's a yacht? So you call in some yacht manufacturers. And this is a very important thing to understand before we get on with it. And I'm rushing everything as always because our time is short. And you call in 5 yacht manufacturers. And they all come in and they give you a catalog, and each one tries to soft talk you into a fabulous yacht. And you say, oh, I like that. 130-footer with these special fittings and a gold this and a what have you. How much is it? So the guy says, well, it's $180 million plus another $20-30 million a year to run, because, your parking fee, captain, people, crew, fuel, blah, blah, blah. Now, he may only use it for 2 or 4 days in a year. That's not the point. The point is, he says, I like it. How much? Guy says 150 plus, plus, plus. Now, can you imagine, you guys are yacht owners, all of you, and I, as a billionaire buyer, then turn around to you and say, thank you. Okay, 150 plus 30, I get it. By the way, if I buy this yacht, how much money am I going to make? You'd probably say, a little off here. Thank you for the coffee and tea. I'm going. You don't want to buy it? Don't buy it. What do you mean, how much money am I going to make? That's the essence of owning a sports team. That you own it because you can afford it, because it's a great privilege and joy to have and share. And of course, in sports, it means a lot more. You develop the sport, you get to be a part of an ecosystem, you sit on the table with other such people. It's all demand and supply as well. You can buy as many yachts as you want, but a sports team in a sports league, that's it. We have 8 teams. Now, I don't care if you're a trillionaire, in our league, you can't have a team, because all 8 owners are there unless somebody wants to sell it to you. And therefore the premium. And the money is therefore made on selling a team. But of course, typically, if you sell something, you don't have it anymore. So the value of sports league teams are because of the paucity. This whole difference between demand and supply. If the league does well, you're one of the few owners. You may not be that rich, but a really rich person says, damn, I don't have a team. I also want a team. Well, you can't have a team. You just cannot, unless you buy it from someone. So the guy says, okay, you pay me a premium of X, and I'll give it to you. So that's the money that can be made. But of course, you'll have to let go of the team then. You can't have your cake and eat it too. But operationally, even the biggest and best teams in the world don't make money. Does anyone know what the shortfall is of, say, Barcelona? I keep looking here, I shouldn't. Anyone? It's like way in the red. Such a big, fabulous club. So coming back to the IPL, it was a really skewed situation where people did not really make money, but the whole concept in India was, oh, you buy a team, you'll make money. So everybody got a little confused saying, oh, wow, okay, so we make money, we buy teams. And I had such a difficult time when I was trying to sell this.
So when you went to your potential franchise owners, how were you able to explain to them that an F1 team or a soccer team is highly valued, can get them money 5 years, 10 years down the line in multiples, but it's a cash burner?
It's not a burner. It's a cash privilege that you have the money. How many helicopters are you going to buy or whatever the hell? Why don't you buy a team and make a difference to a sport which is, I had to appeal on the whole nationalistic thing, right? The Indian flag. I mean, this is, as the video said, our sport.
Yeah, so Charu, let me interrupt you here. One question. To what extent was it in your mind that India is, the feeling of nationalism is rising, and therefore Kabaddi could, be a thing which fits into that slot?
The timing was right. I think, 2010 onwards when I was plugging all of this, I think there was this, and do I have data? No, I'm just saying, my own little kitchen research indicated that a lot of the youngsters, and God bless them, were sort of becoming more, come on India kind of thing, rather than, oh, India's so stupid. So that was a big help, where I felt that people were not maybe the decision makers, because most of them are still of a different mindset, because, the slightly older people, I mean, no disrespect, because I'm kind of there myself, were a little, caught in the past. But the youngsters were certainly much more, come on India, So that was a big help. Maybe not in getting franchises initially, but in having people watch the game and love the game and get into it rather than... What was the biggest macro challenge was to try and break the massive walls of prejudice against the game. And I don't know whether now
what kind of
you're
prejudice?
less... Oh, just unka khel hai, hamara nahi. Gandhi cheez. Oh, yeah, hang on. I mean, imagine some guy getting into a bus with you.
Native sport.
Native, ganda, chota, ganda log. And I may be guilty of dramatizing once in a while, but you know what I mean, though. It was like a them sport, not our sport. So, and it really hadn't... I mean, even though it's been a part of the Asian Games since 1990, which the sport ought to be really proud about, not just the fact that it was included in the Asian Games, which are the second biggest international games after the Olympics, but also, very importantly, or at least a little nugget of info, back in 1990, when they were included in the Hiroshima Games, the Indian squad that went to the Asian Games almost always came back with a fair number of medals, gold, silver, bronze, this and the other. In Asia, we weren't too bad, and still are not too bad. But in 1990, strangely enough, India came back with only one gold medal. And that was the Kabaddi medal. So, for whatever it's worth, it kind of really made people, at least within the Kabaddi atmosphere, realize that, this is really an important sport for us. But it still didn't get anywhere close to the kind of attention or respect that it deserved. And I'll use the word respect a few times in the beginning to just set the tone here about what did one really want to do with the game. And later, of course, the league. Just bring some respect back to what is our own. And a couple of my very favorite examples here. And I'm, I don't know how much time we have for anything at all. But for instance, a lot of people used to say, "Theek hai yaar, kabaddi mein kaun si badi baat hai? It's only us, no? Only we play it, no? It's only our sport, no? So Australia doesn't play it or Canada doesn't play it. So what the hell? It's a cheap sport because only we play it." Now, take that against, say, our favorite example, the US of A. They have something called American football, right? Do they give a damn who else plays or not? They are crazy fierce proud. What about the most popular game? I'm not looking at you, and What about the most popular game in Australia? What is it? Crazily the most popular, way most popular. Aussie rules. Okay, but we're talking to a bunch of really committed sports guys here, so everything's going to be answered straight away. But Aussie rules. Do you think the Aussies really give a damn who else plays? It's massive. They don't say, an average Australian won't say Aussie rules. Who wants to watch Aussie rules? After all, the Hungarians don't play it. No, they are like mad keen about Aussie rules. And we, in our country, no disrespect here, of course. I'm sure everybody has thick skins here. We're saying, Kabaddi, so what is our sport? Chi. Koi aur to khelta hi nahi hai na?
So let me ask you a question.
So I don't know where I was with all of this, but It's just that irked me a lot because when I got reconnected with the game, which is the start of the story, which we may get to sometime, it was just something that kind of not just irritated, it kind of made me sad, saying, yeah, why can't we give respect to our own sport? Which, by the way, is not buried somewhere. It's an Asian game sport, and many countries play it, and yet the average Indian would have nothing to do with it. So that was a strange thing, and I said, no, let's correct this imbalance if possible.
So socially speaking, this change has been happening silently. If we recall, some years ago, 15, 20 years ago, we went to a marriage and we saw a lady dressed in a sari, but you would always find the gent dressed in a western suit and tie. But not the case anymore. You find them, changing, you're finding men wearing manyavar kind of stuff. So, at what stage do you believe? I mean, America has baseball and Australia has rugby, and different countries have their own game which they're proud of, and they're the most watched games, basketball. At what stage do you believe, and do you believe that Kabaddi at some stage will have greater viewership than cricket in India? Like, if you'd asked this question in 1975, that will cricket ever have higher viewership than hockey? You would have got skepticism.
Yeah, that's a subliminal objective. I really had no competitive thought in my mind about let's make it bigger than this or smaller than that. I just said, yeah, is it possible to bring this sport up, polish it up, spruce it up, sophisticate it a bit, and make it a really international offering, sports offering, to those who watch sport? I had firm belief that there's enough interest in that kind of sport in India, if not Kabaddi itself. But once Kabaddi became that kind of a sport visually, many people would take to it. That's what I knew. How many? What's your expectation? I said, I don't know, I don't care. I just want to be able to bring it up, showcase it, and let's go. I don't want to use silly examples. I mean, will Hindi music ever make it bigger than Hollywood? I don't know. It's just that this is ours, this is who we are, let's bring it out there. If 40 people watch it, great. 40 million, fantastic. 400 million, more than cricket, great. I wasn't into a competitive thing about, gotta beat cricket, because, that might, I don't know, take, 50 years. But can it happen? Conceivably, yes, because cricket shot itself in its foot several times. But it's still very, very big because of certain other advantages in cricket which are detailed, so we can get into that, because it's a commercial machine, because which other sport allows you 45 seconds of advertising every 4 minutes?
Yeah.
So that's why, one of the many reasons, football is very big globally in many ways, but in terms of just the revenue that comes in through each match, it's only broadcast right or whatever the hell, I don't know how they make it, but 45, 50 minutes of nothing in terms of advertising. Some peripheral advertising, yes, but not direct advertising. In the mid-show, a little bit, a break or two, and then again 45 minutes and bye-bye. So in terms of commercial opportunities, very, very little. But football has an advantage in terms of time and everything else over many other sports. So every sport has its own ecosystem, and we could be here, like I said, till the day after tomorrow at least, just talking about every sport. Kabaddi, one of the many things we did try and do, to answer your question, yes, it can certainly, being number 2 in terms of being watched in India, from 0 to number 2 or from last to number 2 was fantastic anyway.
Yeah, and the numbers.
But cricket will have to do something quite crazy to itself for any other sport to get.
So that's what we see now. But
sir, if you don't mind.
do me a favor, so that this is being recorded. So whenever you ask your question, please have a mic with you, so that the people who will see the recording do not see a disjointed answer.
No, I could repeat a key word or two. If microphones are a problem, And of course, if you like to be, take a name.
So,
it's all good.
Hi. This is Orko. So I am a startup founder in the sports tech space. So last year I was a part of Khelo India game as one of the stall. I was exhibiting.
The Khelo India University Games here in Bangalore.
Yes, no, not the one in Bangalore.
Okay, which I did.
That Panchkula one, Chandigarh one.
Oh, I did the closing for that, yeah.
Yeah. So that event. So I was going around watching different kind of sports. I have been a ardent follower of football and cricket, but then kabaddi was one of the sports which caught my attention because it's so intense and it's so engaging. If for one who is sitting in the stadium. So has there been any innovation or any thought process in the space how to make it aesthetically more pleasing and how to attract more of India? So currently a kabaddi is a game of a Bharat, as you say, and how to attract more of Indian, so like the metropolitan crowd, and how to make it aesthetically more pleasing and some kind of technology. So I think one of the technologies which you guys integrated last year was the analytics via Huddle, giving game stats, etc. That was an engaging thing. So what are the plans to engage via social media and make it more aesthetically pleasing or attractive for the metropolitan crowd? So what are the thoughts on that?
I'll take your opinion. I mean, we think it's pretty aesthetically pleasing already, but I don't know how we could possibly dress people up in a more aesthetic fashion or whatever. But because ultimately, I'll tell you what, there are many such long stories, and you make some good points, because that's what kabaddi needed. It needed to be more pleasing to urban India as well. And among the many other criticisms I faced, among the 896 criticisms I faced, one was, oh, great, yeah, oh, you want to do kabaddi, fine. Oh, so you're doing it in the villages, right? I said, no. So what, are you going to a town? I said, I'm going to the big cities, to do in the big stadia. You must be absolutely mad. Who the hell is going to come to the big city? So yes, it was a challenge to make sure that we succeed in urban India and not kind of, once again, cement this nonsense about, no, wo to unka khele gaon mein karo. Which is untrue, by the way. It's also a very urban sport. And just to quickly buttress that, not you. How many, in any one geographic area called a city or a set of inhabitants, but when I say city, it's a giveaway, so when I just say a place, in India have the largest number of robust kabaddi clubs. So people say it's a village game, it's a tier 4 game, as this and the other. 550 clubs in Mumbai. Wow. Right. So now Mumbai is no village, all right? So when we say village sport, untrue.
Just to clarify, not village,
I know, yeah. But you know, I meant is it's already, yeah, it's urban, rural, and this, that, and the other. I hear you. Okay, all done. So it's not that it was absent in urban India, because the first major exposure I had to kabaddi when I came back from, which is the story that we haven't gotten to, from doing commentary for kabaddi in the Asian Games in 2006 in Doha. I came back and a little later, so we'll fast forward to doing the same thing in Guangzhou in 2010, again, the Asian Games. And I came back and said, okay, now we have to do this. I said, now I have to, no, it was actually 2006. I went looking around for kabaddi, because I said, if I've said yes to doing commentary for the Asian Games for kabaddi at the Asian Games, you have to, and you're doing world feed. World feed means you're the only commentator there. And of course, because of its linguistic imperialism, world feed is always in English. So the Goras who were given the rights to do kabaddi world feed were like, oh, what the hell do we do now? And somehow they got hold of my number. I have to be immodest a few times. And they said, well, it's a wonderful story, actually. I don't know if we have time for it. And I said, okay. I said, yes. Now what do? I need to refamiliarize myself with the whole game, because all of us, maybe, you know, I was a child in school and this and the other. And I said, okay, where do I begin? Guess what? I called up the kabaddi guys. I said, hey, tomorrow, come to Baswangudi National College. In the middle of this rather small village called Bangalore was this massive tournament. 4 courts. You couldn't get in, you couldn't get out. It was just kach. And when I went in, they said, oh, welcome to the Lati Charge sport. I said, what are you talking about? They said, well, that's what we call it informally. Because as many people as can come in, whatever arena we make 1,000 arena, 10,000 arena, people are just jammed in, as many people waiting outside who are all being Lati charged. So of course, I was taken in, I was obviously struck by the power and the popularity of the sport, and that's how I said, okay, we've got to take this up, and so on and so forth. So I don't know where I've gone with all of this, but can we sophisticate it further? I think it's already a fabulous international visual spectacle when you go to either watch it on television or at a stadium. It it may be difficult to further, what word did you use? Use aesthetics. I don't know what you mean. Right. But within the court, ultimately, and that's what I kept telling people, including our broadcaster, who played a very important role all the way through, and still do. I said, please don't worry about the bells and whistles, about the aesthetics. I said, well, certain aesthetics are necessary to make sure it looks like a big international spectacle. We can't have lesser production. And people on television are used to good production nowadays. So if your production values are lower, then you'll suffer in terms of people watching, saying, oh, this is a shit show. But if you have a decent show, ultimately, I'm taking a percentage, again, kitchen, figures, data, 98% of the people eventually watch the sport and the spectacle of the sport and the action. And if you didn't have some bells and whistles and whatever, it would matter, 2%. But they kept saying, no, it's a village sport and a terrible sport. Even the network to begin with, they were really spooked, and one has to understand that they were spooked because they've never seen it or done it or whatever. And they were so spooked that there was a time when, even a month before the league was supposed to start, they wanted to pull out. It's not going to work. Because the sensibilities of the people inside the network as well, we have to understand, we're all non-Kabaddi, which is oh my God, Kabaddi. I've been put on the Kabaddi project. The guy almost, wanted to jump off a roof saying, but I came to a sports channel because of, cricket or football or whatever. Now they put me on a Kabaddi project. Yeah. People don't want to talk to me saying, you're doing Kabaddi, So it was a real psychological problem of a lot of people. And eventually they said, it'll be really safe if we don't do it. So, that's when I got really sick, ill, because that stress was unmanageable. But eventually, of course, it was held. And I don't know what you asked earlier, but but it was a really difficult situation, because people, even in the network, thought that the game nobody will see. But let's dress it up crazily and stuff it full of aesthetics, and then maybe, I kid around a bit, okay, so you have to bear with me. And maybe then 4 people will see it. But the game, nobody's interested in the game. And I was crying, saying, it's the game eventually, it's the game. Eventually everybody understood that, but it took the mickey out of me. So it's not so much the aesthetics, it's the game.
Tell us about your journey to getting the IPL started.
The PKL.
Trials and tribulations.
So that will definitely take 5 days, or at least 5 hours, or at least 50 minutes. I don't know. So
let's.
But it started with the Asian Games, as I mentioned.
So let's get into, you now laid the groundwork, but you had to get approval from the International Kabaddi Federation and various rigmaroles. How did you manage that, and why and how did you manipulate the changes in the rules? Not manipulate, just changes in the rules.
Which was a very important aspect. But you mentioned the federation first. Seeing the cricket example, for instance, there are other countries which don't really care about the custodians of the sport. Other, I wouldn't call them Western, but developed nations say, hey, this is my private enterprise. Say, like doing a Packer back in the 1970s, 78, 79. He said, I've got a network, I'm going to do my own show. I don't care about this association and that federation, and I'll pay the money and people will come and play. But this kind of a private league atmosphere does not, or did not certainly exist in India. Now things have changed a lot more. Because you had to necessarily carry the custodians of the sport, which was the national federation, along with you. Or they'd be very quick to ban this and ban that. And in India, we're still Federation of the MIBAP. And what do?
They won't allow the player to play.
They won't allow the player to play, which is illegal, by the way. But then he won't get a job. And it's all. So, our commercials weren't so robust that you can say, hey, come on over, play a private league and don't worry about the rest. No, he's worried about the rest. Because even cricketers in India still hang on to a job. So some guy's making billions somewhere, but he's still with Air India. Because, we still have that mindset. You can't change mindsets easily, right? So for Kabaddi, yeah, we did reach a stage even in the first season or two where a lot of people employed by the usual suspects who employ sports persons in India, and God bless them, saying, well, I don't care about this employment. I want to showcase my talent in the Pro Kabaddi League because that's the apex. So I'm going to leave my job tough for me to say, no, don't, please hang on to whatever you have, because, the life of a sports person is limited, especially a contact sport. Now you play a season 2, 3, 4, 5, and then what? So you have to hang on to these things. And it was necessary for me, I thought, in our model then, and 99% of the people still, need to take the custodians along, which means you can have a relationship with them in terms of a rights fee or some other share or whatever. It's one of the more difficult things to do, because
like
they
BCCI,
don't.
didn't the Kabaddi Federation want the product to be theirs and you to be working for them?
Well, at that point of time, all I can say is that Kabaddi was so deeply buried that the federation, I would like to presume, was smart enough to know, and most federations actually, except for cricket, don't have the wherewithal to do major events.
Right.
I mean, it's all an honorary job. There's some office bearers. I mean, how are they going to do this major job unless they give it over to somebody, some big company? So they, in their wisdom, and I must add the trust factor here, they trusted me because of my association with them at the Asian Games and so on and so forth. And I suppose my sporting background, they said, no, Charu Sharma is not going to fool around with our sport. So they were kind enough to sign it over and saying, all right, if you can get the ecosystem going, you do it, because we don't, that was the thinking then. Also because they felt that, kahan jayega, kya karega, kitna karega? But when it did really well, of course, there were all sorts of wins that had to be managed, because then they said, oh my God, I'm sure they were thinking, I wish we'd done it on our own. But wishing is, different than actually doing it. So we took them along, which was the formula then. It's now been broken by another couple of people. The volleyball league now is private because I had a problem with the federation and so on and so forth. But it's a dangerous ploy, because in India, Indian players, Indian sports persons still want to be on the right side of the federation, and still want to play for India, still want to win a medal, still want to get that reward, still want to get a job. All of that happens if you're on the right side of the federation. So it's a difficult thing to go private and to go rebel in India. And we didn't want that happening. Not then. In the future, who alone knows for other sports?
What about the changes in the rules? Wasn't the resistance to that?
Well, I must say, once again, there was this massive trust factor. Nobody wants their game fiddled with. Although all games have, all games evolve. Right? Evolution is there for all of us in everything. Some games are very resistant. Some games realize, it's all for the better. And I did tell the Kabaddi fraternity, universe, federation, that listen, our biggest strength, I say our Kabaddi's biggest strength is that it's a really fast game. And they said, it's a really fast game, raid after raid, up and down. And I said, guess what? To my mind, for starters, among the many other rule changes, if you don't have a pause moment where viewers on television, and remember, television is 900 million times more than 2,000 people watching in the stadium. You say, no, when we watch, it's up and down, great action. I say, what about the 900 people watching and million people watching on television? They don't know what the hell's going on because it's too quick. So, lo and behold, and they were like, what? I said, we have to slow it down. We have to create these gaps where we can have action replays. Because what you watch on television, the emotion of a player, when somebody gets tackled and you see a slow motion,
True.
That's what grabs you. Otherwise, bang, finish, next. Saying, what happened there? So I said, but. I said, don't worry, we'll create a situation. So one of the few things we created, however silly it may seem now, but it was very important then, it still remains so, is that when somebody got out in Kabaddi, they used to step off. And the game used to go on. Now we say, no. Referee blows a whistle. That guy has to sort of come towards the central space and then go all the way to the dugout right at the back. There was no such dugout in the past. It was just behind the court. And people just sat down. And that movement creates about 10, 12, 13 seconds, which are critical for 2 replays. And the game, I don't know which game you follow, cricket, for instance, it's all about the replays, because if you just show action, no replays, we're saying, show me the replay, damn it, show me the replay.
Yeah, that's true.
So the replays had to be created in Kabaddi by slowing it down, and so this fast trade concept sort of went out the window because it just wouldn't attract television audiences, because what do I know? A bit of. I know sport and I know television. So I said, okay, let's put all that knowledge together. And these guys said, it makes sense, but what about, I said, it's very important for you to gain viewership on television. And these slow-mos are the big key. So please, allow me to do that. And they did. And many others. I can talk about a few more if you like, but that's how we were able to convince them that everything's for the good, for heaven's sake. because you create that space and you get slow-mos.
So,
The camera can hear you actually, it's close now.
I'm sorry, I said one of the big changes in the rules that one noticed was the abolition of the breath, tu, kabaddi, kabaddi.
Okay. So
Why
there's a
was
story
that
there.
done?
Yeah. So, well, kabaddi, when you're training in the earlier years, of course, the whole concept of aerobic fitness is very big in kabaddi still. All these guys are super athletes anyway. Now, the concept of holding your breath in kabaddi, which was the norm and which was the story of kabaddi, was that you would take a deep breath and you would cant. They call it cant, the chant. Kabaddi, 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 the cant. And when you cant, then you don't take a breath. And so when you raid, you cant, and that adds to the aerobic drama of the whole event. But how in the hell do you make out whether somebody has broken his breath or not? Not easy, especially when the game got really athletic. So they said, yeah, not easy. What were they doing internationally before the PKL? They were saying, well, we're estimating, kitchen psychology or whatever research. Chalo, 30, 35 seconds tak theek hai. But if the guy is raiding and going kabaddi, kabaddi, kabaddi for 38, 39, saying, out. The guy saying, what for? No, out. Because you've broken your breath. So it's all just, So I said, no, it doesn't work. People say, what the hell? Why? You can't have a why moment. It's got to be tighter. So I said, what? So I said, well, just make it a shot clock, like in basketball. Make it a raid clock. 30 seconds. So 30 seconds, if you yourself are saying by 35, 38, we whistle him out. What's wrong with 30 seconds? Also, it increases the pace of the action. Because what tended to happen in the past is the guys are leading, we're 19, you're 11, is my raid. I don't need any more points. I just go waste 45, as many seconds as I can, kabaddi, doing nothing at all. And then I'd come back and it's up to you to try and quickly, panic-stricken, try and win a point. So there were these loopholes in the game which needed to be plugged. And I said, just make it a short clock and don't worry about the breath because we'll presume that they're, canting or not. Cant wasn't a big thing anyway. Because imagine it's an international game and there's no point having a Venezuelan saying kabaddi, kabaddi, kabaddi in whatever bloody accent. So I said, just drop it. Well, they were a little hung up. They said, no, we must have it. So they, as in Star eventually, the broadcasters. But it got dropped because it wasn't an essential ingredient which could be monitored easily. However, interestingly, there is one methodology by which referees still judge kabaddi players out because of loss of cant.
because of?
The loss of cant, the loss of the kabaddi, kabaddi, kabaddi. And how is that and why is that? Interestingly, and sometimes the Iranians get caught and a few others so even though you are canting but it's not audible and you may take a breath in the kabaddi, 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 kabaddi. It's okay, so you've obviously taken a breath or whatever, but it's not really easy to detect that. However, try doing this. If you, as sometimes people do when they're walking, talking, doing whatever, purse your lip and you go kabaddi, kabaddi. You can't speak when you purse your lip. Try this. Speak with your tongue on your lip. You can't. So once you go kabaddi, 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 and out. What happened? No, you can't possibly be canting, even though it's not really such a big deal. So people still get caught out on that. But I said, forget this, because the accent turned into supreme athleticism and not boring holding of breath contests.
So one more difficult question now. This has been followed by IPL, but as a sports lover, my issue is, why are players hired as slaves? They have no say in whether they can join this team or not, at what salary or not. Why? Why is there no negotiation? Why is there this bidding like a slave?
So for starters, what is the whole? How do you equalize teams in a league? You're playing a little gully cricket or whatever. You say, okay, you here, you there, you here. You equalize teams. And the sign of a good, robust league, unlike the EPL, by the way, all you young football fans, 4 or 5 teams make it every year. And 16 teams are like, who? So that's a sick league. So the whole point of a good league is that anybody can win. Or anybody has the capability to win. So that equal spread of talent is very important. When you have a new league, you have the luxury of doing a twin.
You can still have an equal spread of money for each team.
Money is equal. The purse is equal. Each team starts up with, say, 5 crores now. And you have 2 easy systems of picking. One is a draft, where you have a certain order, so nobody really benefits more than the other. And the other, of course, is an auction. Now, in immature leagues, this carries on. when a league matures, naturally you shift into the whole EPL mode about long-term contracts and player trading and blah, blah, blah. But that is a later stage when there's a mature league. Now, in Kabaddi, we don't think we're mature yet because we have the scope perhaps of adding another 4 teams.
So why does IPL still continue with this method?
They are, in their, I can only say because there's a camera, in their wisdom. But it's not a mature system. And they're also only, 15 years or so. So they'll eventually, hopefully, I was very clear. I said, hey, listen, we're modern. We understand sport. So we'll have an auction the first year or two. And then, bam, we're into player trading. We're into open season. But with the same player purse, which is very important. And player purse is also funny because, all your international leagues are also rife with unethical situations. I mean, who's to know that I've paid you, 2 crores on the outside and that car and everything else that you have?
Does
that's
that
on the
happen?
inside. Of course it does. Everywhere in the world. Footballers are getting caught all the time for being paid more than they should have and so on and so forth. So I said, well, what you can't govern, you can't govern. We can't put a 24/7 monitor in the guy's eyes or whatever, with counting money. So we said, if people have to be unethical, we can't control that, behind the doors. So in the 3rd season, I said, as I've promised, we'll have player trading, open season, buddy. You show your contracts. They should total at that time, whatever it was, 4 crores. You can get whichever player you want. He should be able to say yes to you, and you should sign him on and show us the contract, give us a copy, and so on and so forth. And some of the franchises say, yeah, that's the way to go, and I'm glad you delivered on your promise. And then, of course, the reports started coming in the same franchises, and everybody accused everybody else. No, this is not working because we know for a fact that they're offering this extra under the table.
Right.
And so I said, the guy comes, we know for a fact he's offering this. So it became a mess, which was something they had to handle, But they got spooked a bit, and the federation got spooked a bit, saying, no, all the players are getting spoiled because, people are coming and offering all sorts of things on the table.
Yeah.
So, let's go back to an auction. So I backed off. I said, okay, let's not force feed this. Maybe it'll happen later when we're a little more mature. However, the problem with a sub-mature league going in for player trading or whatever other format, is that when you do include more teams, right? Suppose now Kabaddi is 12 teams, and you get another 4 later. Where are they going to get the players from? So if all the players are already with teams, unless you have a churn, an auction come draft or whatever, all the players, maybe a very minimal retention for the older teams, why should I come in afresh as team number 13 or 14 or 15, 16 and be left with dregs? And I'm paying you 10 times more because they come later.
But do you think there's room to increase the number of teams from 12?
Of course. I mean, the UK has 20 football teams. And it's like the size of what? Chhattisgarh. So what? Look at the size of the country. Of course we do. I mean, we're also slow to accept things in India. BIC. Kya BIC? Pata nahi kya jabardasti. Sorry, BIC. Now, BIC, wow. It's taking time.
Sure.
So in India, if we have 10 teams, pata nahi kya, 10 too much. Or if you do a league for about 3 or 4, 2 months, you say, oh, too much. Who's going to watch for 2 months? What's a mature league in the world? How long does it last on an average? Thank you. So, it'll take time for us to also open up and understand all these things.
So in this...
I'm not blaming anyone, by the way.
In this take time, teams and leagues are hugely dependent on television. All sports are dependent on television. All the money comes from television. So what were the challenges that you found in getting television into your sport?
Yeah, that's like about 18 chapters of the book. So I don't know how I'm going to, crystallize it, but
that was the crux of the success of this.
Yeah, as it turned out. But, because I do television, that's sort of who I am in case people don't know me, which is very possible. I went to every channel, every possible channel in India. And these are like those, Guru Dutt kind of drama situations where I was like, I couldn't get up in the morning because there was so much on the face of it, acceptance. Oh, Charu, come on in because, I did so much work for all these channels. And I say, well, here I am with this project.
Oh, Kabaddi would know.
Yeah, so come sit and, if you say so, well, there must be something in it. And I don't know, but I mean, but they all kind of entertained me. But eventually the commercials were, in their minds, non-existent. And I was told by a very major channel that if you can get anything up to 10 lakhs as a total revenue, I will do whatever you want.
So 1 minute.
So it was a very dismal story, and it comes to an end. If you want to hear the end, I'll tell you the end. If not,
No. Tell us in between
Okay.
also.
So I went to every channel. It took me very long. I spent 6 months with Sony, 6 months with this, because they'd all say, great, yeah, thanks. Can we meet next month, third Wednesday? I'm saying, what's wrong with now? So I say, yeah, well, what can I say? I'm the one coming and begging, so I'll come next month, third Wednesday or whatever. Went back then, yeah, okay, great, I see, so okay, then we'll get our agency, and then, okay, how about next month, are you free? I said, yaar, karna hai to karo na yaar. Nahi karna was the next month, but it's 6 months till they come and give you that usual line, this has nothing to do with you or your concept, and be like, but, at this point of time, all these, the corporate language which says no. I said, she told me 6 months ago, yeah. Then I went to the next channel because I don't want to open too many lines with every channel because, if one did and the other also did, then I'd be in trouble. But everybody said no. And in a nutshell, if they said yes, it was like, okay, you spend on everything. You spend on the production, on satellite, on every single cost that there is. You pay us for our time, for, television time that you take. So all the cost is on you. And because we don't think it'll work. And if there is any money in terms of advertising, if we get some advertisers and what have you,
That we'll split.
that we'll keep. That we'll keep. So I said, I know I look stupid.
But that's not business.
So I said, had I been just before my death or whatever, deathbed, which was close at that point of time, I would probably have said yes. Chalo yaar, dikhao to yaar. What can I say? But eventually, all these channels were all exhausted. And this is a crazy story, so I'm going to spend, I think, a minute if I fast forward. I didn't go to Star Sports because they were still based in Singapore at that point of time. And then it was ESPN Star. And Murdoch owned 50% of the company, and Disney, who owned ESPN, owned 50% of the company. It was a JV formed in 1997. It was always a little rocky. In 2012, strangely, in October, finally, although every year there was like, oh, Murdoch's going to buy out ESPN Asia. Oh, ESPN Asia is going to buy out Murdoch. Didn't happen. Front page, page 17, page 31, gone. Every 6 months. Finally, in 2012, which is the middle of my running around, from 2010 to 14 when it started, Murdoch bought over ESPN Asia's 50%, which was a really big development because all of a sudden, as it turned out, because all of a sudden, Murdoch, when he bought the whole property over, said, okay, now what do I do with it? Okay, India is very big because we've got Star in India, which I, Murdoch, own, and this was ESPN Star, which is a joint venture in Singapore. But why don't I take the sports business now, that I own 100%, to India and have the Indian executives run it as Star Sports and have in Singapore and elsewhere, why don't I use my other brand, Fox? So I'll get Fox Sport to all these places. India is a pretty mature market now in terms of commerce, especially for cricket, and I'll take Star Sports there. So he asked Uday Shankar, the chief of Star then, and doing pretty well, that would you like to take the sporting business over? And I don't know what he should have said or not, but he said yes. Take it over. And they took Star Sports over to start managing it in India. And they were obviously given a war chest. That, okay, here's a war chest, now make something of it. To begin with, And at that point of time, and try and not only do cricket and own cricket, but if you can do some other things, great. So at that point of time,
Timing worked.
Life is all about timing here. Why do you think all our good friends are here today? It's all destiny and timing. so if the business came to India, and by that time I was like 5.5 feet under. And then I said, Star, I don't want to go to Singapore and talk to the Goras. I'm saying if our people here in India are saying Chi Kabaddi, Goras are saying, what the hell are you talking about? So I'm not going to waste my time there. Then came to India, and Star had this kind of, war chest, and they perhaps were happy to, live up to the fact that, okay, we can try and make something new. That's how I kind of got a leg in there, and luckily they were, their deal was no less, what's the word here? Thank you. What's the word? Extractive. But, at that point of time, at least it was a big channel, and we thought, okay, they'd be good partners. But they too, I don't see the camera, but they too had their problems. And as I said earlier, even a month before, and everything was set. And I don't want to use the media. I don't want to, typically what people do when they start new things, they go to the media and say, oh, we are planning one number league or whatever the hell, or tournament or whatever. So the media would report, oh, so-and-so, sorry, what's your name again? Siddharth planning new, Bangalore Rugby League. And blah, 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 blah. Then he would do a little cutting and go to people, see, I'm planning this league, will you help me? Will you become a, so, and the media also smart now. They say, oh, yeah, he's using us, yeah, to get some publicity, and then he'll go on showing people, this is what I'm doing, can you please help? I said, I don't want to do that. I'm going to set everything. Then I'll go to the media. So it kind of worked, at least in my mind. All of us are a little quirky in our own way, so that's my quirk. So I said, we've got to set everything. And where was I? Yeah, so we, Star also didn't, they took it, but one can understand their lack of belief here. It's okay, one understands that. And even towards the end, 1 month to go, and this is a crazy situation, I say they because I'm not going to take names because I don't know what to do about the book, said, listen, this is not going to work. Everything is done. The stadiums are booked, the teams, the auctions over, everything is done. It's like starting tomorrow, but a month from then. Can we pull the plug?
How can they?
A year.
But
how can they mean?
But
they'll do anything they want.
But wasn't the contract covering all that?
Yeah, in contracts in India, does anyone know? I mean, is it worth the paper? So I said, well, I'm going to fight Star Sports? Well, how many shirts am I going to sell, to fight Star Sports? They said, nahi yoga.
And what happened to
them?
Between the time they agreed and now, what happened?
Yeah, they were, and now or that time?
No, at that time.
They were making moves, we were making progress, but then they must have had another discussion.
Did they ask for changes which you were not willing to do in the format or whatever?
Yeah, well, not format so much, but that's a corporate story which we might end with, and that's why I'm still alive. So they said, can we pull the plug? I said, it can't happen here. And they said, no, but it's not going to work. I said, don't worry, it's a strong smell to work here. A 1 hour conversation. At the end of which I got a little out of the gentleman. He said, okay, well, if you insist, can we just do on the opening day, a 10-minute teaser trailer? And then back off and see if people come or not or what, then we'll see later. So I said, no, yeah, now, this has to be done. Don't worry about it. But that guy was the head of everything, not just sport. So I'm sure he got distracted into other areas, and we went and did it anyway. But it was a really dangerous moment, and it serves to portray only how difficult the sell was, where somebody who'd been with you almost a year and a bit at that point of time was still on eggshells. And about the whole corporate thing, yeah, that's the close. I'm no longer deeply involved. We started a company called Mashal Sports because we had to have a company as well as a corporate entity. And it was Anand my co-founder, Anand Mahindra, who basically, which is an important part of the story, so I'm going to quickly fit it in. I came back from the Doha Asian Games in 2006, all gung-ho, because the federation said, oh, wow, good to see you here, and you're doing kabaddi commentary, very nice, very great. I said, it's a great sport here. Let's do work together. Let's kind of really, prop it up. They said, yeah, whatever you want, and will you come now? Will you come for the next commentary? We're doing a World Cup. I said, yeah, and they disappeared after that. I said, so much rah-rah-rah, and then nothing. Well, I wasn't going to go and chase, but I was really convinced about the game. So I told Anand, I said, Anand, you're known as a homegrown entrepreneur. This is a homegrown sport. I think it'll be a great mix. I didn't know he had a kabaddi team too, which he did. They went. And he was like, oh, I don't know. So now how much can I push people here? It was a casual push. And 4 years passed of just pushing and not really getting anywhere. And then, of course, I was called again to the 2010 Guangzhou Asian Games for the same job, commentary, world feed. And I came back and said, enough is enough. Let's just do it now. Enough. So by then, of course, in 2008, the IPL had happened. And so he turned around and said, well, you've been telling me, let's do something or the other for 4 years. What? And I said, anything to do with the game. Take it up here. He said, well, and in the meantime, he'd sent some people out to the federation from his company who must have contacted somebody who contacted somebody, and then somebody went to meet the federation and gave them a complete crazy kind of story about how, I've come from big company to represent and what can we do, and they said, okay. And they gave them some crazy idea and some crazy cost and all got back to Anand and he said, what? No. I said, okay. Yeah. So then he said, well, now this IPL thing has happened, so why don't we do a league? And I must say my first thing was, what are you, do a league, what, do you even know what the IPL takes? It takes 2 cities, forget, this whole new thing about takes a village. The IPL takes 2 cities to organize. And I'm just alone here. He said, no, I think that, if you... So I said, what could I have said? Because I was pushing him so hard. So I said, okay, I'll do a league. He said, good. Get the whole thing set, and you give me a plan. Let's have a budget. And because you're pushing so hard, because, if you do a league, then privately, not knowing the fact that in India, private is death, But anyway, so I formulated a plan, and he was certainly, he was very helpful thereafter. And I told him, listen, I'll do all the running around it takes, but I need your help in one area primarily, which is I need you to make 8 calls or 80 to get our franchises in, because the quality of the franchise was very important. Because I mean no disrespect to Mr. Sharma or Mr. Gupta or Mr. anyone or Mr. Chaudhary, but if they are league owners in Kabaddi, we have these massive like Delhi old fort walls anyway to break up of perception, and then people say, "Kaun hai bhai owner inke?" Oh, who's this Sharma guy? Who's this guy? Choda yaar. I mean, it's a very it's a reaction. It's psychology. So I said, we need people who bring not their money, because we're not charging much anyway, but we want them to bring their entrepreneurial respect and reputation into the game. People say, oh, so-and-so is an owner. Kuch to hoga yaar. Oh, so-and-so is an owner. Kuch to hoga yaar. So that was the runaround. I said, you please make those calls and try and get these people. I'll go and meet them. And he did quite a few. And some we lost out on because I just wasn't convincing enough, I suppose. I mean, I was a salesman once upon a time, but, and we got a couple of weak owners, camera, and we got some really strong owners. And there was this reaction of saying, oh, so-and-so's owner, not bad, yeah. So that really helped. It took time, it really helped. And the one quick story about owners is I had this laptop, and I'm tech illiterate, but I learned a few buttons to press, and I had these couple of presentations to show people. And I went to, now unfortunately but God bless him, in a bit of trouble, Mr. Biani of the Future Group. And I thought he was also very homegrown. And you go to his office and it's all Sanskrit stuff on doors and this, that, and the other. And I went to meet him because Anand called, and I called, and then I said, he's yeah, Charuji, of course, who doesn't know you, and blah, 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 baithiye. And I said, to namaskar ji, chai, coffee? I said, theek hai. Then I opened my laptop, and I was like, normally I have to go to offices and ask people there, yaar, can you just put it on, and can you, then I'll show it to you. Which was a little awkward, but I said, I don't know how to operate it. I've learned a few buttons since, 3 buttons. So I said, तो ये किशोर जी, मैं आपको दिखाना चाहता हूँ कि ये हम किस तरह, the couple of the presentations. And to my delight, he said, Charu ji, ये आप बंद कर दीजिए. So I said, wow, the only guy who got it. And he sold his team actually, the Bengal Warriors. I don't know, for some reason he wanted Calcutta because some businesses were there, Future Group or whatever, I don't know. Luckily the territory was open at that point of time. And he said, आप ये बताइए कि in a season, हमारे कितने पैसे लगेंगे? I said, X. I didn't have to show him the X, what's it called? Sorry? Yeah.
Access.
Yeah, sorry? Yeah, worksheet, or what's it called? Excel. And because Excel, you can say, okay, year 3.9 square root of 46 is equal to there, and do anything here, and then you say, no, it's not looking good. Let's change it to 0.49 or whatever. So it's just muck. Who knew what's going to happen? I didn't do it for money and commerce and this, that, and the other. I just said, let's get the game going here. Do we have 8 people who can believe in it? And as I keep saying, it was like what's the word here? The blind. It was a blind leap of faith. Yeah, that's all it was. I said, just leap with me here. Let's go. And I'm not talking about, you don't have to sell your home or your businesses. I'm saying, this is the money you spend on, aapki billi doodh pi jati hai saal bhar mein itna yaar. That's all I'm asking for heaven's sake. But even that, no, Kabaddi, then people think, oh, I Kabaddi bad. Anyway, Kishorji said, I told him X. It took 10 seconds, and he said, theek hai ji, thank you. Brilliant. Because he understood, this is what is going to cost me. What's going to come, what's going to happen? Who knows, yaar? It's a new thing. It's a new project.
So what happened to him? Why didn't we see him?
So he didn't want to be associated with all of this. He told his children and others, and some guy from his company, who of course hated me for it, some senior, executive. He said, ki, aap aisa kijiye. I said, now what, Kishorji? He said, yes. He said, acha, you please contact so-and-so. Aur wo aage le jayenge sab kuch. Of course I contacted so-and-so.
Just fizzled out after that.
Who didn't want to meet me for a month here. Because he was like, what the hell is this now on my plate? Finally, I did meet him, and he was very confused about what are we doing. But I said, no, Kishorji, wo to theek hai, but no. But, so it was, he didn't know what the hell was going on. But eventually they got a team, they got a coach, and it went on. But one man understood that I'm not going to look at what is it getting for me. I'm just doing it because I think it's a good thing to do for the country.
So Charu, I have plenty more questions, but we don't have plenty more time. So now I have one last one before we'll open it to everybody. You became Pied Piper post your success. You know, we had table tennis, badminton, wrestling, and now we have panja, all kinds of stuff coming in. So did those guys approach you to learn from your trials and tribulations and subsequent success?
Well, I shouldn't say all, but I'll say all. Yeah. So
Why didn't you start one again?
are you kidding? I almost died in the making of the Pro Kabaddi League. Yeah, I just told you. I mean, that kind of rejection, who wants?
But
I mean, you saw the Hindi movies, they go with the degree saying, "Mereko naukri, naukri," shove them out of the door, the Darwan says, "Get out," and you know, the guy goes, commits suicide, yeah. So I just about got through. And I said, I need another league or another, I need a hole in the head. I said, I'm not doing any more, that's it.
so which of these leagues in
I'm
your
going to go
opinion-
back to being a hired daily wage labor as a commentator, which I did. Yeah.
Which of these leagues that you've seen post Kabaddi are on the right track, and which do you think are soon going to fizzle out?
Well.
And why?
Yeah, okay. So there are a few macro situations here. One is that if a sport has a regular weekly or fortnightly, whatever, regular professional calendar, the last thing that sport needs is a league. Badminton, tennis, golf, many other, week after week after week.
There are tournaments all
have
over the
tournaments.
place.
Now, you're saying, no, but I want a league. Where's the space? All the guys who play at the top are saying, no more, I don't want to play more, I want to play less, I want to play less. So there's no space for a league. No space for a big extended real league. You can have a week, 10 days of bam, bam, bam and out, you know. So most of the top players sadly treat it as a hit and a giggle. You know, it's like, I mean, I'm playing tennis the world over, but in India, hey, guess what? This guy's putting a league together. Let's go for 4 days here. Have a hit and a giggle. Lose, win, who cares? We paid $1 million. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. So there are these sports where leagues are not ideal. If you don't have a regular calendar, leagues are good because they can give you a real breadth of action. But in India or anywhere in the world, I suppose, you know, this whole business of being brutally honest with oneself is very important because every sport wants to be like this ugly monster in the room called IPL, right? Everybody thinks, oh yeah, I can also this billion, that trillion. No, yeah. So when you go to a franchisee, you say, well, if that guy can pay 100 million, मेरे को 1 million तो होना चाहिए ना. Not realizing, नहीं है भाई कुछ. There's no money left in India for any kind of sport, really. So anybody who wants to do a league in India needs to seek money from some non-traditional sources. You can't go to the same people because saying, no, my budget's all gone for the IPL and the rest for Indian cricket and the rest for cricket in India and the rest for cricket, Indian cricket or whatever the hell. There's no money left here. So if you want a decently run league and then you got, you know, because you're not contacting self-style PhD for getting franchises, you know, you go and meet franchises and you go to Mr. Gupta and you go to Mr. Chaudhary and what do they say? They say, हाँ, अच्छा बताओ कितना बनेगा? खत्म यार. So you're full of franchises who are saying कितना बनेगा. It's not sustainable यार. Now you may do the Excel sheet and say, you know, fourth year and this and break even and all this fancy stuff in square root of 49. But it doesn't work because there is no money. So franchises keep tanking. You'll say, एक साल तक हो गया यार, now I'll spend 4 crores on this. Because I'm Mr. Chaudhary, I had a lot of money in my sack. I give you 1 sack of money. Now, but enough here.
But what is...
So the people are not getting partners who understand why are they taking a team in a sports league. And these leagues naturally are going to be very difficult to sustain. To get one done, you can collect some funds from somewhere, sell your home, whatever the hell, and you're watching, you say, chalo yaar, karna hai yaar. But sustainability is very suspect. Because people are looking for the wrong reason to be a partner. So basically when you do a league, the sport will benefit in that area in India, and the sports persons will benefit, which is a great start. But the franchisees and other people are not going to benefit because they say, mera paisa, mera to loss ho gaya. I'm like, what do you mean loss ho gaya? You are doing this for the sport. If you want to make money, what do you do? Charu, don't be silly. You know I'm a real estate person. I said, well then make another bloody building and make some more money, yeah? Why do you want to come to sport? No, I sell cement. I said, make some more cement. Why do you want to come to sport? Because sport is the yacht. Do you have enough money to say, yeah, let's do this, yeah, have a great time? No, you say, मेरे को पैसा मेरा loss हो गया.
Why is sports globally accepted as a loss-making proposition Why can't Manchester United, which has got huge amount of fans, merchandise, calendar to play all over the world, operate in a loss year after year?
Yeah, it's self-defeating here because they're paying their players so much.
So something is wrong.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't want to go fix
but
them.
Same is true of F1. Same is true of any sport.
Yes.
Why do we accept the fact that sports is a loss-making industry?
Well, sports is not a loss-making industry because there are many angles, many arcs, many tangents of sport which actually make money. Because the organizers sometimes are okay. The whole ecosystem, there are so many sports management people who make a living because of, they're employed in the world of sport. There are event management people. Many other people in the sports universe who make money. So it's a massive employment area. But a team owner is not meant to be
He can
making
only
money
make when the evaluation
when he sells.
grows
When he
and
sells,
he
it's all
sells
over
and he
anyway.
sells.
So it's notional. But it's the team owners which are a problem, right? Because if you get team owners like Mr. Biani who understood, saying what's it
broadcaster
going to take?
makes.
Broadcaster, okay, here's another quick. Everybody says, oh, big, bad broadcaster. Oh, look at those big, big broadcasters. No sports channel anywhere in the world ever, never, ever makes any money.
There you are.
Because it's a very simple thing. Because you keep saying, yaar, aap cricket ko to itna de rahe ho, 46, 50,000 crore. They're paying too much for cricket. They can't make it back. But lesser people under the big banyan tree who not only does the sports channel not only give money to, but they take a bit of money, even they don't make it, make any money. Because you're paying too much for the rights of popular sports, you can't make that back. You're paying very little for non-popular sports, but you can't make that back either because the sponsors and advertisers missing big time for the lower sports. So it's a cul-de-sac, it's death everywhere.
Okay. Questions?
Charu, good evening. This is Shyam from ESPN.
Oh, gosh, I'm in trouble.
Congrats on the 10th season coming up later this year.
Thank you.
Fantastic. I've got a two-parter, forgive me. The first one is back in 2012, you said, you had to go request broadcasters and it was really a struggle and they almost pulled the plug at the last minute. 2021, the same broadcaster retained the media rights for 900 plus crores. How's that how gratifying was that for you, see that journey? And second most watched league in the country after cricket, of course. And the second part is the franchises haven't really capitalized on the merchandise side of things so far in PKL. Jersey sales or scarves or something hasn't really come up so far. Is there something addressing the coming seasons? Or?
Yeah, so let's quickly address the second part because it's easy. And I don't wish to be the only person who knows what India is all about. All of you have your own opinion. India is all about knockoffs, right? So now, if you are saying, oh, I've got this fancy shirt of a fancy team for, 2,800 rupees, the people who afford that don't want to be caught dead in some sponsored kind of shirt, okay? The people who can't afford that would love to buy the shirt, but at 200 bucks on the street. Now, that's not regulated because I'm not making those 200 buck shirts. So merchandising in India, even the biggest and best clubs have realized, is not a major revenue. It can't be because of our stage of development in India. We're still a poor country. And sport, followed by the really elite part of India's 1%, they don't get caught with this and that. Terrible. It's okay to wear a Firangi shirt with this, that, and the other, but not an Indian shirt. So no go. The lower economic class will buy it off the road here. So where are you in that income? Nowhere. The first one was, thank you. I think it was a big relief to us that Star came back with that number. There are many, many long stories which I can't get into. But what they did do, and now Star, Disney of course, is that when they took the company over, and people keep hating me for those who know me. What are you, idiot, you're a real fool. I said, no, it had to happen. And that's a really long story. It happened at the end of the first season or because of its chapter 5, 6, 7, 8 in my head. So they were, because they took a large part of the company over, they were obviously heavily invested in it. And once it happened and did really well from day one, I obviously knew it would. Anyway, then they became all in. Once they were all in, then they had to protect their property. And they were very keen to not have Pro Kabaddi League go the way other leagues had or since have, by the franchisees basically tanking all the time, whining and tanking. They said, no, we'll we'll prop the franchisees up, don't worry. And they paid them money that they didn't have, or didn't make, sorry is the word. And so that was their present gift to the franchisees to keep them all going, which was a really great thing for the franchisees and the league, but it didn't help their own numbers, Stars numbers. But, I suppose it's a massive organization and it can afford to once in a while. But even that was full of heartburn because the franchisees felt, some of them, that, oh, we could have got more from others or whatever. It's just, the world is just, where are we going with this world? I don't know. But it was such a massive figure and we were so pleased that Star said, chalo yaar. And then they're saying, no, but again, a little more. So, both done.
Hi Charu, my name is Achalesh. So,
Wait, I asked you for your photograph outside, right?
I believe I asked you.
Okay.
So the thing, coming back to your thing that it's only an Asian game sport, and there is, I'm aware that there is a Kabaddi World Cup as well. But
no, Kabaddi World Cup's not organized. It's not regular. It just happens when it can happen.
Right. So, given the success of PKL, and given that the rules of PKL and Kabaddi, international Kabaddi and all is vastly different, what is the, is there a strategy to standardize those rules?
Yeah, so I'll quickly pause you here because, what we did at the PKL has been absorbed and adopted by Kabaddi virtually worldwide now. So because it's used, 90% of what happens is used in international Kabaddi now. So it's not that different at all because they realize it's all for good reason and it's bringing people in. So the rules are pretty much standardized now. Whatever we tweak in the PKL becomes an international rule within the season.
So the second part, does PKL plan to go the route of NFL, as in staying within India, or do you plan to make it into an Olympic sport, have a proper...
Well, if we had better commercials, thanks to the lack of sponsorship by people in India, we'd have gone anywhere by now. Right. But it's still a grind. And so it's not consonant with the fact that it's the second most watched sport. And if companies want to spend on basis of X and Y and ratings and bloody blah and square root, whatever, they'd say, put money in. But we're still struggling with walls of perception. And we've punched a few holes, but the walls are very strong. You go to any average Indian corporate and he says, what? No, thank you. He'll buy anything else. But it's just, what can I say? If we had named our sport croquetology or whatever, I don't know what, maybe we would have gotten better. But no, the commercials are still not keeping pace. And therefore, we don't want to once again extend ourselves by going to various places, increasing the costs, and not necessarily being able to recoup. So, but yeah, it's the obvious thing to do. And there are many offers or many possibilities of taking it to various other areas or portions of it, or creating tournaments in other countries, or just making it more popular in other countries. But ever since I became a little non-executive part and lost all my energy, I'm kind of, that was our next go-to thing. And unfortunately, that hasn't fructified. It's a long story. We'll see me outside.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Chetan. So my question to you is, if somebody wants to start another league in another sport in India, what would be the top 3 things that you would ask them to do before they start?
Yeah, my first thing, and I'm not kidding actually, I said don't. I'm not. So they said, what nonsense? I said, no, don't. What are you doing now? The guy says, I'm with, I met somebody this morning, Schneider Lifts. I said, what's wrong with that, yeah? Why do you want to? So, don't is my first answer. The second thing is, I said, please control what you can control. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to sound righteous, but control the governance and the ethics part of it, because that's in your control. Be as clean as you possibly can. Don't buck the custodians. Take them along, whatever it takes, whatever format, whatever formula, take them along, because you don't want people being rebels. It just, is not clean in our part of the country yet, in our part of the world yet. So I've got to 3. Yeah, and in terms of a project, now I don't want to sound like I'm some hotshot entrepreneur. I'm not, but in terms of your project of that league or that event or whatever, please reach a point where if anyone asks you any clarification, any detail, any explanation, you should go, yeah, X. If you say, let me get back to you, finished. Because nobody really wants to help. The commercial support's very, very poor, because I'm saying is now, how much gone? Remember the percentage? How much commercial support's already gone? 98 perhaps, even as we speak. So what are you left with? So it's very, very poor. So it's a struggle. And I don't want you to be putting your hard-earned money in or whatever else and then saying a year or two later, I'm all cleaned out here. It's like those guys in the past used to go make movies in Bombay. Apna ghar bech ke ye wo, next day on the street here. Because they had this movie kida. So the project has to be so strong and so well thought out that, everything you have an answer. You said, no, what about this? You said that. Then, people very grudgingly, they say, what do we do now here? Now I'll be saying, no, yes. But they won't push you around. So that detailing to me is very important here, all the way through. Because patience is the other thing. Because very often we book and we do things hoping that it'll all work out. And then you got a gun to your head here. I booked the stadium. I've got this. I've got that. I've got that. Now I have to do it. Or I need to. So people, and it happened in the badminton league the first time around, because it happened the same time. The first baddy league was the same time as a couple of months earlier than the PKL. They couldn't get support. And they had booked everything. And then they went looking for and they even they had Star or whoever. So, and they said, we need a title sponsor. You remember who it was the first year? Arey wah. So, yaar, andhere mein bahut bade log baithe. And Vodafone knew that, and they said, well, you want 10x? We'll give you 1/10x. Now, with 20 days to go, what do you say, take care. So you don't want to get in that situation. So, and of course, I say, I will help you as much as I possibly can, as much as bandwidth I have, to meet your potential franchisees, to give them a lecture as a self-styled PhD in why they should become a franchise in your league, if that's your league format, a franchise, before you say yes to anybody or before anybody says yes to you. Because the promise always is that by a year, this, that, and the other, not happening. So I go to franchise and I tell them, do you have the money? How wealthy are you? Can you spare X crores or Y, whatever, for this league and not think about a single rupee coming back for the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years. If you can, do it. Otherwise, don't do it.
Allow me to butt in. Any more questions?
Yeah, here.
There are lots of questions, but there are 3 minutes. So 1 minute. There are 3 minutes. Crisp questions.
Madam saying 7 minutes.
Crisp questions,
Okay.
crisp answers.
Oh, shit. About the latter.
Right.
Hi, Charu. Sumant here. I love your presence on BBC Stumped. Incredible commentary.
Let me quote you. What's your name again? Sumant.
Sumant here.
Next week. I met Sumant at this thing. Okay,
Yeah.
go for it.
Charu, my question is simple. You have been pretty vocal about the reasons for PKL success. After year or two, you have said, okay.
No, day one.
From day one. I mean, the reasons for success, you have been telling about the Asian Games story, popularity in the hinterlands of India, as well as it should be presentable on TV, XYZ. The success form, in fact, if you check, pretty much everyone has copied the success formula given by you, checklisting, okay, these factors, if a sport meet, let's do a league, all right? But PKL has stood its ground, and there is a strong moat. After PKL, second to third, we don't know what league comes in place.
Yeah, I know,
What do you think is the moat?
Yeah, there was a destiny involved for sure, because it came in at the right time, right place, when India needed something apart from cricket. And secondly, because the network was so heavily invested in the company and the sport, it made a very big difference. Otherwise, you're doing it all on your own, and you're showing it on a network, and the network saying, well, give me what you put, I'll show it and bye-bye. But I think the full investment of the all-in nature of the network made a very, very big difference. And of course, timing as well. It came at the right time when India perhaps was ready. There was this feeling of nationalism and so on and so forth. And I have to say, most of all, just the nature of the sport. Because every sport's different. And you may have a sport, for instance, the shooting guys. Shooting, such a big sport in India, gold medal here, gold medal Olympics, gold medal here, gold medal there. But to get a league going in shooting, where all people you see people doing is, now, it's a little tough here in terms of viewership. So you have to know your sport.
Yeah. Hi, Charu. Charu, I wanted to know a little bit about Kabaddi. What is the oldest record of Kabaddi in India? How old would it be?
Mired in God knows what mythology, no one really knows. But I'm quite happy to have picked up the fact that, thank you for asking, that why do you think Kabaddi does a 7-on-7? Somebody in the shadows somewhere? Yeah. All the shadows are very strong today. I know. So the Kabaddi fraternity would like to believe that it's been on since the times of the Mahabharata. What times are those? 18 million years ago? 5,000? I don't know. So, and the 7-on-7 is a take from there, where they said that our sport became 7-on-7 because there were 7 chakras that Abhimanyu had to break through. If you remember all of that, right? Some of you may. I'm no Mahabharata expert. But it's a bit like saying, okay, it's that strong a fortification that you got 7 rings to break through. In this case, 7 defenders. Of course, the numbers keep changing, but in concept. And they are therefore very happy to take their sport back to the ancient mythological times. What's the proof? None, except for the fact that the 7th thing has stayed. And there were many forms of Kabaddi throughout India, but they've all been in the 70s put together as an international competitive form. And that box is now accepted the world over, rather than independent, offshoots of Kabaddi. However, there is one more type of Kabaddi, which we should not talk about because it's very, very badly governed, almost ungoverned, called Circle Kabaddi. Pardon? Maldives? Yeah, well, this is actually Punjab Kabaddi. And I mean, there are thin skins everywhere, so I'm using to back off now. But it's a very different kind of Kabaddi, except that because of its lack of governance, it has many unethical situations, and the media doesn't know better or differentiate, saying, oh, that Circle Kabaddi player murdered some. They say, Kabaddi player murdered. So I'm saying, for heaven's sake, it's not international Kabaddi as our Kabaddi is known, or rectangular Kabaddi. So Circle Kabaddi is a very different kind of Kabaddi. It's like saying, oh, yeah, I play badminton, you play tennis, but yeah, we're the same, no, racket play. No, it's a completely different sport. You also racket, no, me also racket. No, you're playing squash, I'm playing whatever the hell else, it's completely different. So, but let's not talk about Circle Kabaddi because of its lack of governance. This is now the only form of international Kabaddi played and propagated around the world.
And how many teams are there in the Asian sports, Asian Games?
The Asian Games, of course, typically take only the best 12, or, because you can't have people finishing 100 meters in 22 seconds or whatever that somebody just did, the lady. So it's only the best. But about 35 countries internationally are registered regular Kabaddi federations, and more can happen. If that was my mandate, I would have gone and made much more happen, but I'm a little tired now. So hopefully there'll be... No, I've been not tired here. I don't want to go internationally, propagating Kabaddi.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm ready. Lock the doors.
Hi.
Sorry, 1 minute. We'll take your last question. What we will do, we will thank them, release them.
Oh, bye-bye.
And post
Chalo,
that.
bhai.
Post that. Charu is free. You can catch him outside and keep him till 10 o'clock at
What
night.
happens inside,
and ask
though?
him.
Why can't we just stay inside to... Oh, you have to shut everything and
Yeah,
go?
they need to... Okay, so last question.
Hi, my name is Paul. I run a community called Positive Sports Vibe. And we are very much thankful to you which started the whole thing. The employment opportunity in sports in the management side has gone really up because of Kabaddi in the 4-5 months. And that's really great for India. Second thing is that when you said that you're going to add a little more teams in the future, how long that is going to take, because there is a space that around 2 to 3 teams can come, and there are people who's been looking and asking you that thing. And the third is that, is there a possibility of having a second tier and third tier in the future in pan-India space? Because a lot of times what happens, the smaller leagues which can actually penetrate the talent to the bigger one.
Yes.
India do not have that in state by state, right?
Every state has... Well, a lot of states now have their own leagues. There's a massive amount of tournament, event / league activity, which is a trickle-down effect from the PKL. So a lot of people are doing their own leagues. I'm not governing them. I hope they're governed well. They can't get television space easily because television is very finite. But there's a lot of Kabaddi action happening around the country on its own anyway. If I were more closely involved, if I had more energy, I may have been involved in a few. But the lower level leagues that you mentioned are all happening anyway. And that's where the scouts for the PKL do go and watch all these major tournaments, whether at the national level or some club level or some state level or wherever. All these things are all happening anyway. Much more could have happened had we had a bigger, better plan that we could have gone through. But I've stepped back a bit, so I'm hoping to play some golf and tennis and stay at home. But I can't seem to do that. I don't know, I'm still running around. And there were a couple of other questions in there I've forgotten, but yeah, thank you. That's, music to my ears, but maybe not. They'll actually work in the IPL or in cricket, but if not, then... but all football, all the younger guys, everybody is like 40 and under. Cool, yo, man, Arsenal dude, or whatever. What nonsense? Making money from cricket. Confess. There you go. Jhoot nahi bolna bhai. Sorry, we have time for 2 more.
No, 2 more.
Okay.
No, 2 more. No. We're going to meet outside now. Okay. We're going to close. Charu, thank you. Big thanks.
Well,
thank you everyone for coming. And thank you BIC.